Hello everyone, I'm here at the Hoe. It is Pirate Festival here in Plymouth, and I'm stood in front of Sir Francis Drake, who was, in a sense, himself a pirate. Although he did it lawfully, he was a privateer, commonly known as a sea dog, and he was being paid by Queen Elizabeth I to attack Spanish ships as he went exploring around the world. So he was the first Englishman to circumnavigate the globe, and when he was exploring the Pacific coast of North America, what is now British Columbia and Canada, he only went so far before he turned back around because there weren't many Spanish ships to loot around there. Now, came 1588, the Spanish Armada was on its way, a Catholic invasion of Britain by the sea, and local legend has it that Sir Francis was playing bowls here on the Plymouth Hoe and insisted that he finish his game of bowls before he went to defeat the Spanish Armada. Now, that probably won't be true, but what is true is that the British weather helped destroy a lot of those Spanish ships, and also the Spanish were very reluctant to fight using cannons and gunpowder. They preferred their ships to come within grappling distance so they could go onto the enemy ship using ropes and fight with a sword and cutlass. Now, this obviously gave the English and their Dutch allies, who were also experienced sailors, an advantage, and when Drake even went onto the Spanish ship that they captured, he noticed that their cannons were too close together for them to fire very well. So again, the English had an advantage. Now, Drake defeated the Spanish Armada, not only because his ships and their weapons were better, but also the Spanish were led by a man who got terribly seasick, so that was very unfortunate in his line of work. So Francis was born just up the road from here in Tavistock and became the mayor of Plymouth, and is of course most famous for his exploration and defeating the Spanish. What he also did, he was also one of the first English men involved in the transatlantic slave trade, albeit indirectly through his business partner John Hawkins. And we had a square in Plymouth called John Hawkins Square, as it was renamed recently. Sorry, that man rather distracted me. But he also had a black friend called Diego, who had been freed from slavery, who'd been enslaved by the Spanish and wanted to help Sir Francis, who the Spanish called the Dragon, fight them at sea. So yes. Now, hundreds of years later in Queen Victoria's time, there was a lot of nostalgia for the time of Queen Elizabeth I, when this is the time when British men were sailing around the world. In Queen Victoria's time, the British Empire was at its height, and we had a great queen on the throne. So this statue of Sir Francis was erected in Queen Victoria's time, and it has stood here on the Hoe ever since.